Hello friends, if you want to learn NCERT Science, you are at the right place. I am Rajpal Singh and you are watching Easy Science with Rajpal. Please hit the subscribe button and press the bell icon for my latest videos. Let's learn science. Welcome to the first video of chapter tissues. In this video, we will learn about the introduction of the tissues and the plant tissues in detail, and the animal tissues part will be left, that will be discussed in the second video. So before understanding the definition, let's learn about the types of the animals. So there are two types of animals, unicellular and multicellular. So in unicellular there is only one cell, and in multicellular there are number of cells. And as you know that the unicellular are also performing their functions, and multicellular the organisms are also performing their functions. In the unicellular organism, there is all the functions are performed by just one cell. For example, intake of food, digestion, excretion, respiration, movement. These all the functions are performed by one cell. And if you talk about the multicellular organisms, so they have the body which is made up of many cells, and the body is made up of organs, and organs are made up of tissues, and tissues are again made up of cells. So there is a lot of difference between multicellular and the unicellular. In unicellular there is only one cell, so there are no tissues, because tissues are made up by the group of cells. So if we are talking about the tissues, we are only talking about the multicellular organisms like plants and animals. So because there are number of cells in the multicellular organisms, so in these there is a division of labor. Division of labor means the respiration will be done by some cells, the digestion will be done by another type of cells, the excretion will be done by another type of cells. So all the work or the functions that are happening in the multicellular organisms are divided. So there are tissues present in them, because they have to perform different functions. So different type of cells are there. As right now you can see the color of the skin or the texture of the skin is different from the texture of the eyes, because eyes have to see, the skin has to protect. Okay, so there are different tissues in eyes and the cells. So in multicellular organisms we will be talking about the tissues. So let's understand the definition of tissues. A group of cells, those are similar in structure and work together to perform a particular function. This is the definition of the tissues. Means there are a group of cells. You can take any example. If you talk about the digestion, so there are different kind of cells, group of cells, and they perform different cells functions. As in liver there are different cells. So all the cells, those of a particular organ, are called as tissues if they perform particular function. Now the question arises, as there are multicellular organisms are divided into plants and animals. So the question is, are those tissues same of the plants and animals? So let's discuss. As you know, the tissues depend on the function, how the function that perform. So in animals they have to move, in plants they don't move. In plants they have to synthesize their own food, in animals they don't synthesize their own food. In plants most tissues are dead, in animals all the tissues are living. Growth of a plant is limited to certain areas. As you have observed, if a small plant is there, you cut the tip of it. It doesn't grow from there, it grows from the sideways. So the growth in plant is happening on a particular reasons in that. But it is not so in the animal, it is happening in the all body. So, and the tissues of animals and plants cannot be similar, because they have to perform different functions. So let's learn about the plant tissues first. Before starting, we need to understand activity 6.1, which will tell us that growth in the plant happens on a certain areas. So how do we show that growth happens on a certain areas? Take two glass jars and fill them with water. Now take two onion bulbs and place them in each jar. Now make a small chart like this and observe the growth of the roots in those glass jars for first, second and third day. Observe and note down the length of it. Now on fourth day, cut the root tip about 1 centimeter of the jar 2. The onion bulb which is in glass jar 2, cut the root tip of it. Now again observe the growth of the roots for few days, 4, 5, 6 days after that, and note again that in that chart. After noting down these all observations, in which one onion you have cut one roots and in another you both were growing. So you have observed all that, and now there are few questions we need to answer on it. Question number 1, which of the onions in these two jars, 1 or 2, has the longer roots and why? It will have the in jar first, because in jar 2 after third day you have cut the tip and there is some tissue, meristematic tissue present in the tip which makes the root longer. So you have cut that. Now there is no growth of the roots in jar 2. So the roots of the jar 1 will be longer. Next question. Does the root tip start or the length of the root again grows after you have cut the tip of it? The answer is no, because you have removed the meristematic tissue from this root tips. Next question. Why the root tips or the roots stops growing in jar 2 after we cut the tip of it? Because of we have removed the meristematic tissue which is responsible for the growth in the length of the roots. From this activity we have observed that growth in the plant happens in certain areas. It doesn't happen in the whole body. There are certain areas only in that growth happens in the plant. The reason is because the tissue responsible for growth is meristematic tissue and it is present only in certain areas of the plant. So what is the meristematic tissue? It is the tissue in which the cells are continuously dividing, and cells of this tissue are undifferentiated. Undifferentiated means all the cells are same. They are not specialized into say leaf, stem or roots. All the cells are same. After they form the permanent tissue, they will be differentiated. So undifferentiated means all the cells of this tissue are same. They are very much capable of cell division. And because cell division is there, cell division means cells are dividing, that's the only reason growth will be there. Because if the cells are not dividing, how the growth will be there? If one cell doesn't divide and make two cells, then growth will not be there. So these cells are dividing. And all of you know that for cell division, the nucleus is very important. So here in these cells, we have the prominent nuclei. Prominent means the nuclei which can be seen from further, and very outlooking nucleus, very big nucleus. So this is a prominent nucleus because nucleus controls the cell division and cells are dividing. So it has the prominent nuclei. Next, these cells of the meristematic tissue have dense cytoplasm. Dense cytoplasm. Why? Because they have to divide, and if they have the matter, then they can form two new cells. If they doesn't have the matter or the dense cytoplasm, they cannot form the two cells. So they have the dense cytoplasm. Next question is they lack vacuoles. As you have understood that the plant's cell has a big vacuole and they don't have. The meristematic tissue doesn't have the vacuoles because cells are dividing, and when they are dividing there is no need to store the material because vacuoles are only for the storage of the oils and starch and etc. in the plants. So they do not need to store it because they are dividing. So there is no time to store it, and it also hinders the division. If cell the vacuole is big, how can cell divide? So there is no need of vacuoles in the meristematic tissue. Cell wall of these tissues is very thin. Again the same answer, because they have to divide. If the cell wall is very thick, it cannot be broken. If it cannot be broken, new cells cannot be formed. So the cells of the tissue, the cell wall of this cells of the tissue are thin. So now let's understand what regions or what places or what points in the plant are there on which this meristematic tissue is present. So let's understand first, if plant has to grow in a length above the ground and below the ground in the roots, it is present in the tips of the roots and stem, because if it is present in the tip, it can make the plant longer. So those meristematic tissue which are present in the tips of the root and the shoot or the stem is known as apical meristem, and the function of this tissue is it increases the length of the stem and the roots. So now you have understood where it is present. It is present right here in the tip, and it is responsible for the increase in the length of the stem and the root. The next is intercalary meristem. Inter means in between, calary means it is the word intercalary which is taken from the day in the solar calendar. We have to fix one day to make it the whole calendar. So in between things are intercalary. So what are in between these are present? So these are present on both sides of the nodes. Particularly these are present in grasses, sugarcane, bamboo, these type of plants. It is very prominent, although it is present in other plants also. So you need to understand just one thing. It is present on both the sides of the node, not on the node. It is present on the internode. Means when two internodes meet, there is a node, and on the both side of it, it is present. And from there, as you observe in grass and sugarcane, from that in that node, at the base of the node and from internode, the leaf originates, or the some branches originate. So it is also responsible for growth of the branches and growth of the leaves. Leaves and branches grows, or twigs also grow from the intercalary meristem. Now third type of meristematic tissue is lateral meristem. Lateral means in the sides. It is present in the sides. Okay, if it is present in the sides, so it has to increase the girth of the plant. So what is the girth? It is the same as you go to a tailor. It takes your measurement, and it also measures the waist of you. So in the same way, if you measure the waist of the stem, it is the girth of the stem. Means the diameter of the stem or the width of the stem. This is known as girth. So it is present in lateral positions, sideways, on the sides. So it is again making tissues, and it is responsible for the horizontal or increasing the girth of the plant. Although it is present in the roots also, it increases the girth of the roots also. So this is all about the meristematic tissue. As before starting we said, this is undifferentiated tissue. Undifferentiated means it is all cells are same. If all cells are same, how they can perform different function? They have to take different shapes according to the need of the plant and perform different functions. So now these undifferentiated cells will be differentiated. So differentiated means they will take definite shapes and definite sizes. So let's understand the definition of differentiation. The process of taking permanent shape and size to perform a particular function is called a differentiation. So cells are differentiated. Now they have lost the capability to divide. Now they are not dividing. They have now become the permanent tissue. The permanent tissue means now the cells are not dividing. They have taken the permanent shape and size, and they are performing particular functions. Again, the permanent tissue is further divided into simple permanent tissue and complex permanent tissue. Simple means there will be one type of cells, and complex means there will be different cells and they coordinate with each other and perform one function. So that's why it is called as complex. In a simple, there are only one kind of cells. As you see in this chapter, there is only division, division and division. Permanent division, simple and complex. Again the simple will divide, and again that complex will divide. Here is activity 6.2 in the book, but we are not going to discuss right now. We will discuss in the end, and there is a section of the STEM. We will also talk about that in the end. Let's begin with the permanent tissues first. So now the permanent tissue is again divided, and the first type of tissue is parenchyma. So these are the cells of the parenchyma. The first thing that you observed in these cells is these cells have very thin cell walls, and with the thin cell walls they are loosely placed. So if they are loosely placed, there will be intercellular spaces. So they have large intercellular spaces, thin walls and loosely placed. These cells are live cells. You need to understand in plant, most of the cells are dead. So you need to understand which are live and which are dead cells. But these parenchyma cells are alive. They also form epidermis. We will be talking about that, and they also help in complex tissue. So this is the tissue. It is present on number of places. It is also present in the leaves. So what is the function of this parenchyma? The first function is it stores food. Mainly in phloem it stores food, and in most parts of the plant it stores food. The second function is it provides the support to the plant. In some plants, the parenchyma in the stem and in the roots store nutrients and water. And there are some vegetables also, you can name them. So these are the parenchyma present in them, which store the nutrients and the water. So in some stems and leaf, in a leaf, the parenchyma cells, in the mesophyll of the leaf, the parenchyma cells contain chlorophyll, because parenchyma itself is unspecialized cells. In some cases, they become specialized, as in the stem of the cactus, they are green, and in the leaves, if they contain chlorophyll, we call these as chlorenchyma. The name changes from parenchyma to the chlorenchyma. And in some aquatic plants, as they are floating plants on the water, so in those that plants, this parenchyma has very big water bubbles inside. So it makes the plant buoyant. It gives them buoyancy and it floats on the water. So when a large amount of air is present in these cells, we call that aerenchyma. So now that parenchyma becomes aerenchyma. So these are two special cases of the parenchyma in which it becomes a little bit specialized. Now next our tissue, that permanent tissue, is collenchyma. As you know that if plant doesn't bend, it can break by wind and by any injury. So now you see the twigs of the branches of the plants are bending, stem also bend to somewhat extent. So there is a tissue called collenchyma. This tissue is responsible for bending of the plants and stem and twigs. The characteristic feature of the cells of this collenchyma are they are thickened at the corners. As you see, there is a thickening at the corners. So it allows them to bend. That's why they are thickened. And these are also live cells, and the air spaces are almost negligibly present. There is no air spaces present in these cells. They are very closely packed. The cell wall of these tissues is made up of pectin and cellulose. So those parenchyma were present in epidermis. These cells are present in hypodermis. Hypodermis means the layer of the cells inside the epidermis, that is called as hypodermis. So these cells are present in hypodermis, and these are also present in all branches of the leaves and stem. So what is the function of these cells? First is these provide flexibility to the plant. It allows easy bending of the branches and stem of the plant. As you observe in the leaves and branches, without breaking they can bend. So this is the tissue which is responsible for this. And its second function is it also provides the support to the plant. Our next tissue is sclerenchyma. So now this tissue is known as dead tissue. Means if you observe the husk of the coconut and you see the outer part of it, a number of sclerenchyma cells are present in that husk of the coconut. So these are all dead cells. So the cell walls of this tissue are thickened In the collenchyma, they were thickened by some other like pectin and cellulose. Here, these are thickened by the deposition of lignin, and lignin acts as cementing material. Cementing material means there are bricks, cement is present inside them, and that attaches two bricks together. In the same way, these cells are very hardly attached to each other by lignin. So this lignin makes it like this. It doesn't have intercellular spaces inside them because of the presence of the lignin, and that's why it is very hard tissue. You have also observed that these cells are long and narrow. So what is the function of this tissue? It provides the mechanical support to the plant, and second function is it makes the plant hard and stiff. Sometime you have observed that a leaf falls and some part of it is digested by the microbes, and there is a net of veins which is left out. So this tissue is present in them. That's why that smaller organism doesn't eat them. So it is also present in the veins of the leaves, and you have observed the covering of these seeds, outer covering, that's very hard. This tissue is a sclerenchyma, again present in the covering of the seeds, and in the stem, and these are tissues are present. So this is all about the simple permanent tissue. Let's move to the complex permanent tissue. As the name suggests, it will be complex because there will be number of cells. So let me tell you, these are two type of tissue, xylem and phloem, and in each these two, four type of cells are present. This is also known as conductive tissue. Conductive means in a plant, what is need to be conducted? Water and minerals from the roots to the leaves, and from leaves the food to be conducted to the whole part of the body. So these two functions, xylem takes the water and phloem takes the food. So these make vascular bundles. So now what are vascular bundles? In the stem, if you cut a stem in a transverse section like this, and you observe under the microscope, you will observe a structure like this. As you see, these are small bundles present inside that stem cutting. These are vascular bundles. Vascular bundles means the smaller pipes of xylem and phloem, they are clubbed together and make a bundle. We call it vascular bundle. Vascular means the transport of the water and food inside the plant. So this is also known as conductive tissue. And conductive tissue, there are more than one type of cells, and they will be coordinating with each other and performing one function. As we take the example of xylem. In the xylem and phloem, you need to understand there are two type of tissues which name is almost common. We will discuss it there. Xylem parenchyma, phloem parenchyma. Xylem fiber, phloem fiber. So these two are the names you can take out from there. We will be discussing later. So now let's start with the xylem. In the xylem, the first two cells are trachyry elements. We call them trachyry elements because these are tracheids and vessels. So these two type of cells are present. So we need to understand one by one. As you have observed, the structure of tracheids and the vessels are not same, and they are also present in different plants. The tracheids are present in almost all plants, but the vessels are only present in angiosperms, or the you can say the flowering plants. In that, as example, mango is there. So these type of plants, the vessels are present along with the tracheids, but tracheids are present in the all plants. Mostly this tissue is dead. Tracheids and vessels are dead tissue. So let's understand what is the difference in the structure, how they conduct water. So let's start with it. As you see, in tracheids, there is a narrow lumen. Narrow means they are pointed at the ends, and very narrow space is there from the water can pass. And in vessels, it is a somewhat broader lumen, means inside surface area is broader. In the tracheids, the pits are large relatively in size but less in number. In the vessels, the pits are more in number but small in size. The tracheids are imperforated. Imperforated means, perforation means the boundary of the cell wall of that cells has small pores. So there is no small pores on the outer surface of the tracheids, and there are number of pores on the outer surface of the vessels. These tracheids, they are connected laterally, means side by side these are connected. But in vessels, these are connected end to end, and we fix two pipes. In the same way, the diagonal ending is there from the one vessel, it mixes with the another and makes the long pipe. But in that tracheids, it is side by side they are attaching. So now there is xylem parenchyma. Parenchyma, we have understood that tissue is present in this xylem also, and the function of that parenchyma is to store food. And a sideways conduction of the water. Sideways means these tissues are connecting water to the to the leaves, but it is also need to be conduction to the sideways. So sideways conduction of water is done by the xylem parenchyma. And the next tissue is xylem fiber. And as you know, the fibers are there only for support, to bind these all molecules. Fibers are there. So it is the xylem fiber is mainly in supportive in the nature. It doesn't perform any function in the transport of water. So this is all about the xylem. So there is phloem, and next one. So next one is phloem. And phloem, there are four type of cells: the sieve tubes, the companion cells, the phloem parenchyma, and phloem fiber. Phloem parenchyma and phloem fiber we will be talking later. Now let's start with the sieve tubes and companion cells. So now mainly the transport of food is done by the sieve tubes. Companion cells help in that. So let's understand how these coordinate. These two cells are closely attached and they coordinate with each other. These sieve tubes are placed end to end. End to end means if we fix two pipes by two ends, in the same way they are placed like this. And there is a sieve plate in which pores are there, small pores are there. So if we fix it end to end, it makes the long pipe. And from these sieve plates, the food will be transporting. So now what is the function of companion cell in this one? Companion cell controls the activity of this sieve tube. How the sieve tube will conduct the food, because in the xylem the water travels only in one way from root to the leaves, but in phloem the food travels in both way. It can go up to the plant, it can go down to the leaves. So this activity of this is controlled by companion cells, because sieve tube doesn't have nucleus and nucleus is only present in the companion cell. So companion cells are controller, as you also have some companion that also supporting you, helping you in your activity. So now in this companion cell, these do the same way. They take the food and they also transfer it to the sieve tubes, and they stores the sugar in that also. So these companion cells are controlling the activity of the sieve tubes. The mainly the transfer of food is done only in the sieve tubes, and it is done in the both up and down manner. In both ways it can be done. So in some way these companion cells are also helping to transport the food, and this is all about the sieve tube and the companion cells. Now let's find the function of the phloem parenchyma. As in that xylem, in parenchyma food can be stored. So this is again supportive tissue, and the last one is phloem fiber. Fibers are always supportive. They are not not involved in conduction of the food. This is just supporting. They are holding everything together, making it in a bundle shape. So this is fiber tissues are only in supportive in nature. So this is all about the complex permanent tissue. And in this one, we need to understand active and passive transport. In active transport, energy is required. The conduction of food from a different part of the plant is an active transport. The companion cells spend energy on it. So this is called as ATP is spent on it. So this is called as active transport. And in that conduction of water is passive transport, means no energy is involved in it. From the soil, the water concentration is high, the water gradient is high, so it will enter into the root, and by transpiration the water will be pulled upside. So there is no energy or ATP spent in that, because by transpiration the water molecules are being pulled by the sun and they are evaporating, they are again pulling the another molecule, so there is a chain suction pull is there, by that the transpiration happens by itself. So there is no involvement of the energy, we call it passive. If involvement of energy as conduction of the food, we call it an active transport. Now we need to understand activity 6.2. In this, you have to take and small part of the stem of or any that plant. Take a small twig and make a cut on it, and a small slice will be there. You will put safranin on it and observe under the microscope. You will see the structure like this. So in this structure, we can see that how parenchyma, chlorenchyma, vascular bundle, xylem, phloem, these all, how these are arranged. So first thing that you see is trichome. These trichomes take root hairs which take the water from the soil. The next thing is epidermis. So what is epidermis? It is the outer covering of the stem and roots. It is made by parenchymatous tissue. Then we have the hypodermis. It is made by collenchymatous tissue. So these tissues are packed together. In cortex, you can find the parenchyma and some that cells of the collenchyma also. Then we come to the mainly our concern is the vascular bundle. These two things are a main concern. There is a endodermis and pericycle. So these are small two rings of the cells. There are two vascular bundles, xylem and phloem. So these pipes are clubbed together and make the vascular bundles like this. So in some plants, xylem and phloem are together. In some plant, there are different conditions. So in this plant, the inner one, which are pink color, are xylem. There you see small pores in there. These are small the tracheids and vessels present in them. And the greener part is a phloem. So they together make the vascular bundle. So this is activity. In our NCERT book, so there's a some paragraph written on the epidermis. So we are going to understand it right now. So now topic is epidermis. This epidermis is usually made up of single layer of cells. There is no intercellular spaces. It is an outer covering of the cell, as we have understood. So what is the function? It is give the protection to the stem from the outside parasite or whatever it is. The aerial parts of the plant like leaves, small twigs, if you rub with a small sharp something which is sharp, you just rub it, you will see a waxy layer is there. So the aerial part of the epidermis secretes some waxy layer. It is just for the protection and it make resistant to the from the environment. As in an environment there are a number of harmful gases also. So this waxy layer protect the aerial part of the plant. This waxy layer also prevent the water loss, the invasion by fungi, parasite. So this is a basically protective layer, waxy layer outside the aerial part of the plant. So you will observe the stomata. We can do the activity 6.3 here. In 6.3 you take up a royo leaf, stretch it and take some inner part of it, and you the lower part of it of the leaf, you put it on the slide, cover slip, and some safranin on it, and you observe. You will see this structure. So you will observe this structure in the microscope. These are the stomata, and there are guard cells present in the stomata. So these guard cells are also epidermal cells, but they are designed to open and close the stomata by endosmosis and exosmosis of water. Water comes in, it opens the stomata, and water goes out, it shrinks and closes the stomata. So this stomata is required by the exchange of gases. Carbon dioxide and water, oxygen need to be exchanged by this stomata. These stomata are also responsible for transpiration or exchange of the gases, and transpiration means the water will come out of these stomata. So these are also epidermal cells. The epidermis, which is present on the roots, has root hairs, and these increase the absorption area. They go into the soil and absorb the water. in desert plants, these epidermal cells have a very waxy layer outside them made up of cutin, because they have to reduce the water loss. If you observe any leaf from the desert, you will find it hard outside because of the deposition of cutin on that epidermis. As the plants grow older, this epidermis of outside, as you have observed in the small plant, there is no bark. When the plant grows, the bark is there. So epidermis is replaced by secondary meristem. Meristem can also be called as cambium, so we also call it as secondary cambium. This meristem, all of you have understood that meristem divides and make the new cells. This epidermis is replaced by meristem. It makes the cells into the outside. When it makes the cells into the outside, and they die after some time, and it becomes the bark. You have observed the bark of tree. It is made from the secondary meristem, which was made out of the epidermis. Epidermis was replaced by the secondary meristem. And there is a suberin chemical called suberin, which is present on the bark, which makes it impervious to the gases. In the environment, there are harmful gases, so they can get into the stem and other parts of the plant. But that bark protects it because of the deposition of the suberin, a chemical which stops the gases from entering into the stem. So I hope that you have understood the plant tissue and the introduction of the tissues. Thank you very much.